Well, good morning, everyone. This is going to be a rapid, quick-fire session. You've got 4 speakers, but hopefully at the end of it you'll understand why air quality is so important to our health. So I want to begin by just taking you back 73 years ago, because this is a really good place to start to understand air pollution. This is London in obviously 1952, the Great London Smog. That smog consists of sulfur dioxide and tiny particles, black carbon particles. It happened in the first week of December, so in a couple of weeks from now, coming up, 73 years ago, and it was absolutely horrendous from a health viewpoint. This is Trafalgar Square, just to emphasize how bad it was. You couldn't really see more than a couple of, maybe 10 feet in front of you, and everybody was affected, from the young to the old. And when the pollution passed, which took about 10 days, and in the subsequent months beyond that, when people looked at the data, they were absolutely horrified by the impact of this pollution episode. So you can see on this, no, it's not working. So you can see we've got black smoke going up there in the beginning of the 3rd of December. You've got sulfur dioxide going up as 2 concentrations. And then underneath, thank you, you have this peak of death. So normally 250 about average per day, and that peaked up around 900. And if you add up all the extra deaths, this goes out for quite a time, over this period, it comes to somewhere around 12,000. And it was primarily those people who already had a chronic health condition, which subsequently died. But it really was a very clear marker that there was something about the quality of the air that was really important for your health. And it just pushed a lot of people, into that really bad period where they had succumbed. So, I'm not getting any movement. So the next slide really just illustrates the way air pollution is not just a problem for our cities here in the UK, it's a problem across the world. And so anywhere where you've got a major city, where you've got lots of traffic, where you've got lots of cars moving about and commercial vehicles moving about, where you've got forest fires maybe impacting on urban areas, desert dust increasingly now in the Middle East. These are areas where air pollution is really a problem for the citizens in those areas. And it's quite clear now that those people who experience regular air pollution episodes, they have a reduction in life expectancy. And that reduction in life expectancy varies by region, and that's related to, obviously, the concentration of pollution which people are being exposed to. But the global average is somewhere around 1.8, 1.9 years of life lost. Now, I'm taking you way back to 1956, and this is important for 2 reasons. The first reason is in 1956, the UK introduced its Clean Air Act, and that was where they banned the burning of coal within urban areas, closed down all the power stations, moved them outside cities, and banned the use of coal in domestic settings. But it also was the year that this statement was made by Harman. He speculated that free radicals were produced inside cells, and this produced a cumulative oxidative damage. And this was really revolutionary at this point in time. A free radical is a molecule that's got unpaired electrons. And if you've got unpaired electrons in a molecule, then it's reactive. So he was saying that there is either radicals being produced in that cell, or there are entities which are introducing radicals to the cell. And this was really very helpful in understanding some of the metabolic disasters that were happening in some diseases. But the reason I'm putting it up for you today is because when I read this subsequently in my early career, it really struck a bell when I was thinking about air pollution. Because this bottom molecule here is NO2, and NO2 is a free radical. This here is O3, oxygen. It's one of the most powerful oxidants that we come in contact with. Remember, if you've got a swimming pool and you don't want to put chlorine in it, you use ozone. It kills everything. So imagine just breathing that ozone into your lungs. And then finally, particles. These particles that are coming from combustion, from a diesel exhaust, from a petrol exhaust. They're carbon cores, but they're covered in metals, some of which are transition metals, and transition metals drive free radical reactions. So these common air pollutants, which we are exposed to in our cities, etc., they're able to drive free radical reactions in your lung. So that was really a bit of an eye-opener to us when we started working in this area. So this all came together in a unifying hypothesis which links the effects of different pollutants on the lung, and it's oxidative stress. It's not the only thing that happens in your lung when you breathe in pollution, but it is one of the initiating factors. And free radicals are very damaging. They will damage lipids, proteins, anything which we value in our cells and tissues. So we started thinking about linking this idea that pollutants may be acting through free radical actions and how that occurs in the lung. And one of the big advantages to us was, at the time, electron microscopy was developing in a way in which all the aqueous compartments in the lung could be maintained when they were produced like this. So here you have the blood capillary. This is a endothelial cell which is lining that capillary. It's got a basement membrane which it shares with this elongated type 1 cell. But sitting outside on the surface of the airway is this layer of fluid, the respiratory tract lining fluid. And so anything that comes into the lungs, such as a pollutant, is going to have to interact with that layer of fluid first before it can interact with the lung itself, or even go across the lung into the circulation. So the respiratory tract lining fluid became of great interest to us. There's a technique called fiber optic bronchoscopy, which was developed really to look for, identify lung cancers. But you can actually adapt a fiber optic bronchoscope to actually be able to take a small bit of tissue, or you can introduce some saline and wash a little bit of the surface of that airway and pull that back so you get a diluted form of that respiratory tract lining fluid. And that's what that's what my clinical colleagues did, and we were able to look at that layer of fluid, which we found to be very rich in antioxidants. Now, antioxidants are the enemy of free radicals. So the typical antioxidants we're talking about are ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C, reduced glutathione, which is GSH, and uric acid, UA, which is a byproduct of purine metabolism. And they're very good at dealing with free radicals. So the concept is that pollution's coming in, it's bringing in an oxidative challenge to the lung, but your lung has some protection on the surface through the antioxidants which are present in this layer of fluid. So here you can see a sort of working hypothesis where we have our 3 antioxidants here. We have a particle coming in which is loaded with metals, etc. And you're going to get basically an interaction between these two. You're going to get an interaction between these two. And if the antioxidants win, then by the time that particle gets down to the lung surface itself, it's not nearly as reactive. In fact, it might have been even nullified, but it really depends on the complement of antioxidants that are present in that lung fluid. So to be able to sort of take that working hypothesis and put it into reality, we wanted to undertake some human challenge studies. And this was when, in fact, I was back in Southampton. You're going to hear from Stephen, who was there, my boss at the time. And we searched across the UK for an exposure facility. We actually ended up going to Portsmouth, if you remember, Stephen, where the submarine unit was, because they were doing some studies in humans there. But it turned out it wasn't appropriate for our use. We ended up having to go to northern Sweden, to the University of Umeå, where they had fantastic exposure facilities. And there, you can see in this slide, Oh no. You can see in this slide, here is a sort of factory, and in this factory there is a large Volvo diesel engine. That's the exhaust coming up here. It's being diluted down about 20-fold, so that what comes out the other side of this wall into this chamber where we have our willing volunteer is what you would breathe if you're walking up and down Oxford Street in London at the time. This was 25 years ago. But what we were able to do was to do controlled human experiments where either that diesel engine was running, or that diesel engine was not running and they were just breathing nice pure air. So everybody was their own control. And that was really, really important, because you see a lot of natural variability between individuals in these types of experiments. So here we have some of our fantastic colleagues doing their bronchoscopy. This is one of the cells which you would see in that lung lining fluid. It was a macrophage. It's undergoing cell death at the moment, but there you can see the reason for that. This is the black carbon which has come from the diesel exhaust which they were breathing in. So, summarizing all that, what we have is, to begin with, we have a challenge, a pollutant exposure challenge, and that may be you're in Oxford Street, or it may be that you're in Delhi, or it may be somewhere where it's really clean. It depends what that size of that pollutant challenge is. You have your antioxidant defenses, but the more pollutant you're exposed to, then these get used up. And I haven't got time to show you that data, but they really do. And then, as they get used up, you start to see the effects, the oxidative stress developing. And as we look at what happens then in the cells at these stages, what we have is, we've got good protection here, so nothing's happening here. Here, we're losing some of our protection, and you start to see pro-oxidant signals being developed in the cell. You get inflammatory signals, you get inflammation coming in, and then eventually, in the end, you may actually get cell death. So that's the whole process, you know, in one slide. But this is what we think is the basis of why your body is sensitive to air pollution. And this, again, is a summary slide of lots and lots of work. But what we think is that some people are sensitive, some people are sort of normal level of protection in the middle, and some people are very resistant. And that we can actually show through measurements of lung function, or the amount of airway inflammation that occurs after a standard challenge, or the cell damage, or the airway hyperreactivity. People fall into different categories. And the reason that they do that is one, how much pollution they're being exposed to, but also what their basal respiratory tract lining fluid antioxidant concentration is. And then that was where we started. We thought, oh, it's as simple as that. But in reality, it's not. And in fact, this is a dynamic process, and what's really important as well is your capacity to replete those antioxidants that are being lost, because it's a sacrificial interaction with pollution. So they need to come from your circulation back out onto your lung surface to keep that level of protection up. So this oxygen or free radical theory of air pollution, it stood the test of time. There's now lots of publications supporting it. And I just want to finish by thanking all my colleagues who contributed to the work. Thank you.